Hey, how is everybody? Good to see you guys. So sorry that I'm running a little bit late. Just trying to get some things going here. Um, Good to see each of you. Shut my door there. Good to see each of you. Hopefully you can hear me. All right, everybody can hear me. Hi Dallas. How are you? Hope everything's going well. We'll wait for a couple more minutes here for people to load up. It's been quite a day. I just got in. I'm sorry. I was just following up on a report that I got about a shooting. That the information was released for the Chicago shooting that happened, and the police body cam footage was just released. And how you doing, Dale? Good to see you. And I don't know. It could be bad. It could be a bad night in Chicago, guys. Just if you're from that Chicagoland area, buckle in because it could be a pretty bad night. Also, if you're from the Minnesota area, just buckle down and you guys need to just get ready for a pretty long night. If you're on here, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and hit like. It would really be nice. We'd really like to get more activity here. The more likes we get, what happens is it drives the algorithms up, and a lot of our viewers, you don't see a lot of our viewers on here because right now a lot of people are using shaded software or non-tracking software, so they're watching us, but you can't see them because they're not being tracked. So someone told me the other day, a lot of your viewers dropped. No, what happened is people are now using, other avenues and ways to view these without being tracked. So we don't see them when they show up. So a good case in point, you can kind of figure out what's going on, but that's the deal. All right. Well, first off, I want to welcome everybody and thank you so much for taking your time with us today. I gave everybody a quick shout out last night. We had a kind of some breaking news last night. I'll share a little bit more about that. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight. There's some other stuff that I'm working on. There's a pretty big story that I want to make sure I at least touch before I leave tonight, and it's about the border. So I'm going to try to close with a border story that I'm working on. So that's pretty important. Well, one of the big things we're watching right now is the the Derek Chauvin trial, and I can tell you guys, it's going to be hard for them to actually charge this guy. The way that they're putting on the, unless it's truly a tainted jury, I don't know. There's probably at least one person on that jury that's going to have reasonable doubt, because everything I've seen on the trial, everything that I've researched and seen, according to the law, it appears, like I say, it appears, the burden of proof, the guy didn't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to go kill George Floyd. He didn't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to go kill someone. In fact, he was doing what he was trained, according to the training officer, he was trained to do, and that was restrain someone, specifically someone who was on, that appeared to be on drugs and could be violent. So it's going to be really hard, and I know it's tough, but you know, what's happening is more and more and more these stories are being played out in the news. The news media is just trying to get the result that they want so they can have higher viewers, so on and so forth. And this is a problem because you know, in the media's mind and in those who actually watch lamestream media, they've already got this guy convicted and, you know, given the death penalty, where he's far from that. Now, in the other case where this officer pulled her handgun on accident, I think we can say that was an accident. We can tell her intention because she had taser as she pulled the trigger to shoot. In her mind, she had a taser in her hand. Now, I'm just going to tell you guys something from my law enforcement background and my military background. What happens in a situation like that, it's called rote memory and muscle memory. And I mean, you practice pulling your weapon. You practice so that when a high stressful time comes, you immediately pull your weapon to defend yourself. So she was on the job for 29 years. Now, that don't seem like it's an important factor, but it's a very important factor, because here's the deal. When she started learning on the force, she didn't have a taser. All she had was a firearm. And so her muscle memory for all these years, right, has been to pull her firearm when there's something going and shoot. Now, just recently, you know, they've just started deploying the tasers, individual tasers to officers. And so that's the thing here. When you have these defund the police cries, and you stop the training for officers because you're running out of money, you're running out of funds, as a less lethal option, but not had the time to train on the tasers like she did on her firearm when she first got hired on. So, pardon me. So, I just want you guys to understand there's a lot involved here. Now, it's no different than you or I getting in our vehicle and you know, being, you know, we're in an automobile accident, and because we're, you know, we have a driver's license, we understand that every time we drive a license, we have to be coherent enough to be to use good wisdom in our motor, you know, our automobile. And if we are in an at-fault accident where someone dies, we could be charged with homicide. I believe it's called vehicular homicide at that. So she's looking at a charge similar to that, except it's you know, it's with a weapon. I don't think she woke up in the morning saying I'm. And I mean, by everything we've seen on the video, I don't think that you know, I honestly think it was a mistake. But all that being said, she's still culpable for her actions. And the thing is she's going to get her day in court. The thing that upsets me is I'm watching people automatically saying, you know, oh, she's guilty of this. Let her have her day in court. Now, on the other side of this, we have people saying, well, this young man, you know, he had his whole life ahead of him, all of this. Guys, I looked at his rap sheet. It's open source. You can look at it. You can find it. This man had a rap sheet at 20 years old that is actually greater than a lot of career criminals. I mean, this guy had quite the rap sheet. And he was a young man. And he was actually already, because of COVID, he wasn't in jail. Because of COVID, he was released to his parole officer, and he had a warrant because he had stopped reporting to his patrol officer. And the problem here is his parole officer issued the warrant. It was a felony warrant for unlawful firearm and for basically choking a woman during a robbery. So there's a whole lot of broken stuff here. One, he should have been in jail. Had he been in jail, he would still be alive. Number two, had he not been driving around with a vehicle that had an expired tag, he might not have been pulled over. Number three, had he been reporting like he was supposed to his parole officer, he wouldn't have had a felony warrant. Number four, had he not resisted, and I've watched that video probably 10 times. It's a very hard video to watch. He did resist before, and don't listen to everybody that say he did. He resisted. And just so everybody understands this, the officer that was arresting him was an officer of color. So you had an officer of color arresting a young man of color. The officer of color tells him, do not run, do not run. And you see him breaking loose from that officer trying to get back in his vehicle. Now, here's the thing. He might have a weapon in that vehicle. We know he had a weapon. He had a weapons charge before, so he's very plausible he could have another weapon. So, he had a weapons charge on him before. So if he's trying to get in his vehicle, he could be getting in there to try to get a weapon. Number two, he gets in the vehicle. That vehicle then becomes a weapon because he can drive over and hit someone. There's a lot of things going on here. So, his failure to comply immediately throws more into this. So, I think, I don't know how it's going to end. I think the officer's probably going to get charged. I think the officer's probably going to get some type of sentence. I don't know exactly what type of sentencing she will get, but she will get something. She'll probably never be able to be a law enforcement officer again. And by the way, she's now got to live with this for the rest of her life. Now, to be honest and truthful, I'm hearing that she might have possibly had a weapons discharge before, several years before. And I don't know. I don't know. I haven't been able to verify that. But so, that's what we're looking at here. And, it's important that, we know the facts before we start judging people. And that's my whole issue. Okay. I'm all for everybody's opinion. We can all have an opinion. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, she needs to get her day in court. Just like that young man had his day in court and was released, and then he violated again. All right, moving on. I've beat that horse dead. Today we learned that Administrator Biden now thinks he can go toe-to-toe with Russian President Putin. Guys, Biden can't even string two sentences together. Just being honest with you. He can't even string two sentences together. But yet he thinks that he's going to be able to go toe-to-toe with Vladimir Putin. And, Vladimir Putin's going to make him look like a fool on the world circuit. So I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know what's happening. But, the bottom line is this. At the end of the day, it appears the Biden administration is truly the JV team. They really are. Now, earlier today, we had a breaking story about the airport in San Antonio. My understanding, that there was a police officer there, and the active threat was taken care of. And I believe it was a police officer shooting. But at this point, I don't have any more details on that. And so we're just going to tuck that away till we get more details and get more information and move forward. But I just wanted to keep everybody, get everybody that information out as soon as it came across the wire. I got it. I threw it on there, and I haven't had a chance to go back and look at things. All right. Another thing that we're going to be looking at tonight, we have Joe Biden's overall border policy approval has fallen to 29%. 29%. And even worse, Joe Biden's approval among Hispanics, American Hispanics, is 27%. You know what, guys? That should tell somebody something. That should give somebody a wake-up call that this man is not, 27%. I want you to think about that. That's horrible. And it's with Hispanics that he thinks he's doing them a favor. Now, let me tell you, I'm going to go ahead and insert that story I was going to tell you about here. Last night, when I talked to my intel people, of course, we got that one story that we talked about the gas tax, and I thought that was important to bring to you. But another story that's out there that we need to make sure we need to keep an eye on. Okay, there is 5,000 children, between 3,000 to 5,000 children, that are being moved to a military base in Texas. Sounds good, right? Now, these are unaccompanied children that they cannot find any relatives here in the U.S. for. So these are basically children that are unaccompanied that are just here. All right? So there's, as far as they know, there's no for them, seeing them, waiting for them or whatever. Now, I'm going to tell you guys a little secret about Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci got censured, and Dr. Fauci got in trouble several years back. Test with, it was something like vaccine on humans. What I'm hoping we're not getting ready to see, I'm hoping we're not getting ready to see a live test for the COVID vaccine on children. I'm going to tell you right now, Dr. Fauci is evil. I don't care what anybody says. There's something about that man I don't trust. I don't trust him. I don't trust him. I don't trust him. I don't trust him. So here's the deal. I think that we need to keep an eye on that. We need to keep these people accountable. Data they need to roll out this vaccine for all of our children around the world to get. And they have a very convenient amount of little test subjects. That's a little scary when you think about it. So we're going to keep our eye on that story, and we're going to try to keep some accountability on that. And I would recommend that you be looking in the news for certain telltale signs that may be happening. And I'll share that with you at another point. Something else that's important, I seen today that the Pentagon and their scientists have invented a microchip. Guys, this is scary what I'm getting ready to tell you. And you can find the story on my Facebook. The Pentagon's scientists have invented a chip that can be inserted under the skin, and it will detect when a patient develops COVID-19 or contact with COVID-19. Yeah, I didn't stutter. That's scary. Now, why are they saying that? Well, you guys remember that ship that had like 4,300 people on it that got sick? They're saying had they had that chip on that ship, they would have been able to control the outbreak. Are you guys getting what I'm putting down here? Are you hearing what I'm telling you? Are you hearing what I'm saying? I'm not scaring you. I'm just telling you, guys, this is crazy. Okay? So we need to keep our eyes on that. We need to watch it. All right. Before, I don't think that COVID vaccine is the mark of the beast. I don't think so. But I do think that COVID-19 vaccine is a precursor to the mark of the beast. And what it is it's getting the people prepared, just like taking our temperature, scanning our temperature when we walk in a room, wearing a mask, all this stuff. That's issue I think's going on. So we need to keep a very close tab on that and keep an eye on it. All right, there's a couple other things trial or in the trial, and well, there was more than 40, but I think there was 50 something people arrested. But out of that 40 people that were arrested didn't even live in Minnesota. I want you to think about that. So they didn't live in Minnesota. Somebody's shipping people in again. Okay. Now let's just do a little recap of last year. Remember last year you had BLM. You had, we believe it was George Soros funding these activities, all of this stuff going on. And even Kamala Harris was collecting money to pay the bail of these people. All right. So the vice president, she's now supposedly the vice president, she's complicit with these activities by default, which means anytime something like this happens, we can point to her and say, you're compliant, you're complicit with these actions because you provided funds to put people back on the street that was breaking the law. So this is something that the Republicans are going to be able to use in the 2022 elections against terrorists. They're going to be able to use a lot of this stuff, that's happening right now. Now, I'm sure a lot of you heard today that our good old fun buddies up there, the Democrats in the House, with Jerry Nadler, the Waddler, that's his name, the Waddler, Jerry Nadler, they talked about they want to take the Supreme Court from 9 to 13 people. Now, it's been 9 people since the 1800s. Now, the only reason they want to take it to 13 is because, they're saying that, there's no justice because it's got more conservatives on there and so on and so forth. The bottom line is when someone is placed on the Supreme Court, they're placed on there because of the law. They're there to interpret the law. They're not there to make the law. They're there to interpret the law. And you interpret the law as pure as it is. You should. There should not be a political slant to anything. It should be the law is X, Y, Z. All right? But, so now they're crying for 13, 4 more, I believe it's going from 9 to 13, so 4 more, whatever, 4 more. And you and I both know that's crazy. We don't need that. And the last president, it was a Democrat who tried that way back in, 1913 or I forget, something like that. It was a big failure, okay? So I think it'll be a big failure again. But what they're doing here is once again, they're giving us a whole bunch of fodder. They're giving us a whole bunch of stuff to use on the 2020 election. Things are shaping up to look like a run of the House and the Senate. And if we can have a run of the House and the Senate, and we can get that done, then we can impeach Biden and we can impeach Harris, get them out of there, and we can turn our country back to being great again. All right. I'm going to move on here. You guys, if you have any questions, let me know. I can also take some questions tonight if you want. Be thinking of your question and get it up there early so I can get it out there. Also, please, if you haven't yet liked this live stream, please hit like and make sure that you subscribe if you haven't subscribed. All right. The Navy released some video today of none other than UFOs in New York. The report says that since the pandemic, there has been an increased number of sightings of UFOs and that the footage was leaked. Okay, guys, here's what I'm going to tell you. I think there's two things going on. One, we know what's going on in New York. By the way, it looks like Como is now even in bigger trouble because Como apparently forced someone to write his book and write something good in his book for him. That's the next big story coming out of there against him. I mean, this guy is really something else. He's really showing what he is. And so he's in trouble. So I think that they're just trying to throw stuff up to the wall and just get stuff out there to try to make us not look at the COVID deaths, the 15,000 COVID deaths that the Democratic Party and Como purposely allowed to happen. Okay. And then, they try to cover it up. But it's not just him. Remember, you've also got New Jersey. You've got a couple other governors that are in the same boat that are going to be charged. If Como goes down, other governors are going to go down. See, okay. So if you look on my page, what you'll find is there's a little thing there that says, "Don't buy the distraction, stay the course." Yeah, don't buy the distraction, stay the course. Don't jump in there. Next, we have China. It's basically explaining that they have space weapons. Now, when I started talking to you guys last November, I talked about a tool that was called the Rod of God. And I got to be careful what all I say about the Rod of God, but the Rod of God is, it's basically a laser-based weapon. Some people say the Rod of God was used in Nashville when that vehicle blew up. Some people say the Rod of God was used in the fires in California. I don't know. I can't confirm it. But what I can confirm is something happened. Okay? Now, don't be surprised at the technology out there. Here's what I can tell you. Back in the 80s, when I was working with psychological operations, we could bounce a laser off a glass as long as I had what's called line of sight, as long as I could see the window where there was a meeting going on in I could bounce a laser off of that glass and listen to what was going on in that room. That was back in the 80s. Back in the 80s, I was working with what's called data burst transmission. I had a radio that it was big enough to carry on your back. It was called, back then it was a Singar radio. And those of you that was in the military, you probably remember the old PRC 77s, the PRC 1081s. These radios about this big. Well, this was kind of like that radio, but it was a multi-channel data burst radio. And it was a satellite dish that literally, it was only about this big, and I would fold it out. It would turn into a dish, and I would take out my compass, and I would know where the satellite was. Now we're talking in the 80s, guys, mid 80s. I would lay the compass, shoot the compass to where the satellite was going to be, and I had 3 seconds to download my burst of data to the satellite. So here we are, let's say in the middle of the jungle somewhere in South America, I can't tell you, right? And we would have to get our information, our orders, and we'd have to send our sit rep, which is a situation report. And we only had 10 seconds to get all of this done. And so I would have to send for 3 seconds, have a 2-second wait, and then receive. And that was the only time I could do that for that satellite opening. Now, we had some alternatives in case I missed it, in case something happened that didn't work. I had a couple alternative things I could use, spaces within like 15, 20 minutes I could go to, but that was in the 80s. All right. And this was secure data burst transmission, right? And so I can only imagine what they got now. All right. So what I'm going to tell you, back in the 80s, we had what was called sonic weaponry. And it would be on a Humvee. And Humvee is that's what took over for the Jeeps. It was a vehicle-mounted weapon that looked like a satellite dish, but it wasn't a satellite dish. And you would point it to people, and it had a box in the back of the vehicle that basically it would create sonic wave or sound waves. And if we had a crowd of people in front of us, right, you would be standing up, and we would let that sonic burst go, and the people would like fall over, and they would lose their bowels, and they would lose their bladders on themselves. They couldn't, if they had guns in their hand, they'd drop them. We had weapons like that in the 80s. We could really use those weapons now. I think in these places where we're watching this rioting, but we had that. Another thing I can tell you that we had in the 80s, when I was there at I was working for the inauguration committee back in 1987. We had what's called the Avenger Project, and it was basically missiles that were mobile that would shoot down airplanes. And it would shoot down like Scud missiles too, but these missiles, and that's what shocked me about 9/11, because I knew that back in 1987, before that plane hit the Pentagon, it should have been intercepted by one of those man pads. We call it man pads. And it should have been intercepted, but it wasn't. So I don't know what happened. I don't know why. It makes you wonder. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But so we had these mobile launch systems deployed all throughout Washington, D.C. at that time. Now, all this information I'm telling you is all open source information. Now, you can go find this information and you can look at it. And so don't think I'm telling you some big secret. Everything I've just talked about, you can find with a Google search, or you can find it in Popular Mechanics. The sonic weapon I was telling you about, you can find it in Popular Mechanics. It's there. The military won't ever tell you it's real, but they show you the plans for it. And I'll tell you it's real. Anyway, it looks like China is working on, those weapons. So we need to seriously buckle down, and we need to get ourselves, in control of what we're doing, because, there's some problems if we're not careful. And one thing I want to remind everybody, remember what we were told by 17. Those of you who know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Those of you who don't, it's okay. It's okay. 17 told us to watch the water. Watch the water. Dan Scavino did a post, and he showed some water at Mar-a-Lago on the golf course. That's all the post says. I don't know what it means. It means something. So we're watching the water. All right. Next, we're going to talk about the NCAA and their bonehead decisions. Now the NCAA has announced that it's going to begin to pull events from states that have not taken the measures to allow men to perform in ladies' sports. I'm going to say that again. The NCAA is going to take sporting events out of states that will not let men, be in women's sports. Guys and ladies, our world has gone nuts. We've gone crazy. I don't even see how in the world we can even entertain this. It is what it is. And we need to stay tuned to this story, because if it's anything like I think it's going to be, there's going to be a huge backlash, and the NCAA is going to have to reverse their decision. All right. Okay, this is pretty good here. I know there's a big argument about people saying that, that companies cannot force you to get a vaccine. But there is a company, and they're an organization, the NFL, the National Football League, has now mandated their first and second tier employees to be required to take the vaccine. I'm going to say that again. The NFL is now requiring the players to take the vaccine. We'll see how all that goes. All right. Do I have any questions out there? Someone give me a question if you have a question. Getting ready to wrap up. Of course, on Wednesday, which was yesterday, Joe Biden announced that the United States military would begin withdrawing from Afghanistan on May 1st, and that they would be gone before September 11th. Do you guys know what September 11th is in the Middle East? Somebody talk to me on here. Do you guys know what September 11th is? Well, I'll tell you. It's a Muslim holiday. Why would we do that? Why would we specifically say September 11th? Just a thought. Next, a lot of you seen I made a post about the Palaca Municipal Airport in Florida. A lot of you asked me, what does that mean? When I said ABC soup, for those who knows, it appears dinner is being served. Don't be late to the party. What am I saying there? Well, it appears that there is a lot of activity by certain government agencies, those that have letters in them, that are now flying in and out of a private a small airport in Florida. They're flying from Malaysia, and they're flying Malaysia, and then they go to the spa. Now, some of you know what it is. I will tell you, the spa is Guantanamo Bay. So something's happened here in the last week. Now, here's the key. I'm going to tell you guys a little inside information, okay? Most of your intelligence out there that you're finding, you don't find, intelligence is pulled from a lot of different data points and open source, just like I'm just telling you about this, open source. One thing about prisoners being moved to Guantanamo Bay, how do you know if you're watching a video of someone like myself and they're telling you, yeah, we're watching military aircraft fly in and out of Guantanamo Bay, and they're taking prisoners, and Hillary Clinton's on board. I want to tell you guys a secret. By law, they cannot be flown on military aircraft. They have to be flown on contract aircraft. So if someone tells you they're flying a prisoner to Guantanamo Bay, and you know it because it was a military helicopter or a military airplane, they're not flying a prisoner. Okay? Check it out. Check out the information. You'll find it yourself. You cannot fly a prisoner on a military aircraft. It's got to be a contract aircraft. Now, there's certain aircraft we use, and I say we, I mean the United States uses, and one of our sources, I've shared that source with you guys before, and so we watch that. That's where I got this information from. And those aircraft that we are watching flying from around the world and then flying there, these are private companies that have been hired. And we know they're hired because we watch their activities and where they fly. And so that's called open source intelligence reporting. And that's where we find that information at. So there's something happening in Guantanamo. Exactly what it is, I don't know what it is. Something's going on. So we need to keep our eyes on that and just watch and see what's going on. Last but not least, we had Joe Biden holding a meeting with the Congressional Black Caucus. I tell you what, that was, if you listen to the video, and I got the video on my page, you can go watch it. If you listen to the video, you're going to laugh. I mean, this guy has the presence of the command of that room about like a teenager. Fact is, I've watched teenagers hold better conferences or press conferences than that conference that he held in his office. And I'll just leave it there. And the information he gave, it was all pointed information, just blah, 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 blah information. So anyway, all right. Well, I haven't seen any questions come up. So I do thank you all for coming. Now we're going to pray for our nation like we always do. We're going to pray for our leaders. We're going to pray for those that have authority over us. And I want each of you guys just to know that I appreciate you. I appreciate your prayers and everything you're doing for your country. Thank you. Please share this. Please share this information. If you go to my Facebook page, you can see the link for this, or you can pull the link off here. Share this link with somebody. Fact is, do me a favor and share this link what we're going to start doing is, and I'm trying to get to the point, we're going to start watching those who share the link, right? And I'm going to start having some type of special announcement for them or something. Call their name out, give them a special award or something. So, do what you can do to share this link, okay? We really appreciate it. Let's go before the throne. Almighty God, as we come before you, we thank you for this opportunity, Lord, to worship you in spirit and in truth. We would ask you right now, God, that you look at our country, Lord. You see the things, God, that we're dealing with in our country. You see those that have authority over us, God. I ask you, God, Lord, to give them wisdom beyond their years, give them the ability to lead. God, open their eyes and their understanding on who you are for your glory. God, if anyone has nefarious actions against our country, we bind it right now in the name of Jesus, and we loose truth. We loose truth out so that truth can be heard and seen by in confusion to the enemy's camp. But anyone that is trying to do so, and we ask you, God, to protect us. Lord, I ask you for each and every this broadcast, God, give them good health. Lord, give them peace, and give them, Lord Jesus, the ability to know that you are alive and well, and that you, God, are our only true hope. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. Thank you so much, Patriots, for everything you do. We really appreciate you. Remember, if you haven't hit like yet, go ahead and hit like. Go ahead and make sure that you share this with your friends and family. And Patriots, remember, keep your powder dry. Bye now.